Good evening. You are tuning in to AWANI Tonight with me, Cynthia Ng. Registration for COVID-19 vaccine low at just over 6%. And when can we lift the ban on interstate travel? That's coming up. Malaysia's daily COVID-19 cases have dropped to 1,828, the lowest they have been since January 5th. New cases in the Klang Valley are continuing to fall, with Selangor reporting 453 cases, the lowest it's been since December 27th last year. Johor, meanwhile, reported the highest number of new cases at 490, mostly from a single factory cluster, followed by Selangor and Sarawak. The Health Ministry reported 5 new COVID-19 deaths, bringing the total death toll to 1,135. The government has issued new guidelines on who will be eligible for COVID-19 vaccination priority. Science, Technology and Innovation Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said special committees are set up not only to investigate complaints of people jumping queue for the vaccines, but also to review proposals from groups who want to be included as frontliners.
But I just want to add to that I've been receiving quite a lot of emails, anonymous whistleblowers, and we will be investigating every single complaint that I received. And also I want to announce that the committee just now has agreed to form a subcommittee that looks into all new requests for new categories of people who want to qualify as frontliners. So I'll give you an example. Community pharmacists have appealed to be included in the first list of the phase 1. So we've set up a committee to look at all these new applications of appeals for groups to be included as frontliners.
Elected officials are among the recipients of vaccines under the first phase of the National Vaccination Program. However, officers of state excos, Menteri Besar and state secretaries are not included in the list. This includes family members and spouses of cabinet ministers and lawmakers. Khairi clarified after complaints on politicians cutting the queue during state-level launches for the vaccines. He tweeted that frontline workers comprise 2 categories, those directly involved in healthcare and medical treatment, covering Ministry of Health and Defence Ministry facilities, as well as teaching hospitals and private hospitals. Meanwhile, Health Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Adam Baba said fines are being mulled for those caught jumping the queue for COVID-19 vaccines.
In the same press conference, Khairi also touched on the registration progress of the vaccination program. He said current percentage of public registration for the COVID-19 vaccine was low at just over 6%.
Khairi added that the government need to step up their efforts in order to get more to register for their vaccines in order to achieve the 80% of the population target. Registration for the program can be done via the My Sejahtera app, which was open to the public starting last week when health authorities begin giving shots to health frontliners as part of the plan's first phase.
Pregnant women and nursing mothers can register to be vaccinated but must obtain clearance from specialists. Health Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Adam Baba said that the ministry will allow them to be inoculated if the benefits outweighs the risks, and the evaluation will be considered on a case-by-case basis.
There is currently insufficient data on the potential effects of the COVID-19 vaccines in expecting and nursing mothers. They must consult their doctors on the vaccine beforehand to carry out risk assessment. Dr. Adam also said they would be given access to the vaccine if the Health Ministry considered them high risk, such as those suffering from hypertension, diabetes and obesity. Priority will be given to pregnant frontliners looking to receive the vaccination before those from the general public.
Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said the emergency ordinance is not an excuse to remain in power for a longer period. In fact, he said in a speech today, the ordinance has an end date on August 1st, before the country is given the choice to elect their government in the next general elections.
The main focus of this government at this moment, of course, is to steer this country clear of the double whammy of health and economic crisis. And once the pandemic is over, which I hope will be very soon, I will then advise the young Deputy Tuan Agong to dissolve Parliament. And until such time, my colleagues in the Cabinet and I will continue to carry out our duties and responsibilities to the very best of our ability. Of course, when the election is held, we will leave it to the people to decide whether the Perikatan National Government should be re-elected or otherwise. My hope is they will re-elect us. Of course, you are free to choose, and that is what democracy is all about.
By what yardstick can one assess the Perikatan National Government after a year? Tonight on Consider This, we speak to political analysts about the politics of survival and its consequences for good governance. Right, we take a short break. Stay with us.
What have you learned today? Becoming an investor, usahawan hebat, belajar main gitar, atau buat burnt cheesecake? Trigonometry? Wow, serius sangat ni.
Welcome back. Recently, the Health Director General, Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah, said that the ongoing ban on interstate and inter-district travel will likely to continue until 70 to 80% of the population has been vaccinated. Now, this statement drew concerns from the tourism sector and its minister, Datuk Sri Nancy Shukri. She stressed that a new approach is necessary in controlling the spread of COVID-19, apart from continuing the ban on interstate travel.
We need to have new ways of how we're going to enforce it. Because by banning the interstate and inter-district until we reach 70 or 80% people being vaccinated, we don't know when that will be. It could be next year. So how long are we going to allow the people to wait? The industry players, they just cannot wait anymore. And the people affected are the workers as well. And I can understand. I respect people's expert opinion on health, but seeing that when you talk about health, you must also remember health can also be affected by people whose life is affected by the mental depression because they don't have jobs, they don't have income. It cannot be a standard suggestion. Okay, it has to depend on the situation in each place. For example, if there is one particular area whereby it is considered as red zone. But we cannot be too generous to label a place as red zone. We have to be very, very strategic. And just because of certain cases going on there and you label them as red zone. Now, with that, we need to strictly control that particular area. We cannot afford to just stop people from moving from one place to another. Of course, I've been hearing a lot of things, people saying, okay, with all the festivals, the Kanduri Kawin, the Ramati Kappa, that can cause the spread of the disease because, the spread of the virus because people are not controlling themselves. So, how do we go about it? We empower the community leader. Like what happened in Sarawak now, there are more cases, but actually, in terms of enforcement in the kampung, some kampung, what they do, they use community leaders, empower them to empower their Rela people, the APMM, to take control of their kampungs. When you talk about tourism, you're talking about movement of the people. The minute you control the movement of the people, there is no life in tourism industry anymore.
So is it time to lift the ban on interstate and inter-district travel? We speak to University Putra Malaysia medical epidemiologist, Associate Professor Dr. Malina Osman to talk about the considerations.
We think that we have to be strict, meaning that to allow people to go to the other state, through the interstate or inter-district travelling may not be suitable at this moment. In general as well, we found that inter-district travelling also depend on your purpose, meaning that if we have basically have purpose like business or just to have merely holiday, I think that can be justified to have this regulation to be lifted. But then because of in our culture, the interstate travelling or inter-district travelling always be associated with balik kampung, visiting the close families, friends, and all those social gatherings. So we found that all those clusters, affecting the vulnerable groups, have been occurred, particularly during the third wave of this pandemic.
When then is the suitable time for us to consider lifting the ban on interstate and inter-district travel? Dr. Malina weighs in.
Based on our calculation, if we can follow the advice from the Ministry of Health, get registered and get vaccinated, the targeted 50% of the population can be achieved within the first 100 days of the vaccination program, provided that we can go for the maximum 126,000 per day. So as we observe some of other countries observing decreasing trend after they started the vaccination program after 1 or 2 months, like what had happened in India, UK, US, we also predicting the same with our country.
On to international news. India's expanded vaccination campaign kicks off today with Prime Minister Narendra Modi receiving his first dose of the Covaxin vaccine by Bharat Biotech.
The campaign that began mid-January, prioritizing healthcare workers, halted due to reluctance towards the Covaxin, which was approved without late-stage efficacy data. Despite all that, Modi encouraged all who are eligible to take the vaccine, including those aged 60 and over, as well as those over 45 with comorbidities.
It has been 1 month since the junta took power in Myanmar and arrested Aung San Suu Kyi. The National League for Democracy leader was at a court hearing today via video conference, the first time she's been seen since her civilian government was ousted on February 1st. Suu Kyi's appearance came as demonstrators took to the streets again across the country. This is despite an escalation of force from the junta that killed at least 18 people on Sunday after police fired live bullets at protesters. Suu Kyi originally faced 2 charges of illegally importing walkie-talkies and violating Myanmar's natural disaster law. But further charges were added on Monday, including breaching COVID-19 restrictions during the election campaign and for causing fear and alarm. Hundreds of thousands of protesters continue to demonstrate against the junta, demanding for Suu Kyi's release and a return to democracy. And over in Thailand, dozens of protesters and police were injured in violent clashes at an anti-government rally today. Police used rubber bullets, tear gas and water cannon against protesters who marched on a military base in Bangkok, calling for King Maha Vajiralongkorn to give up direct command of the army unit housed there.
10 protesters and 23 police officers were reportedly injured, while 1 police officer died from a heart attack. The youth-led political movement is demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha and has broken taboos by calling for reform of the powerful monarchy. Police said 22 protesters were arrested yesterday and charged with violating an emergency decree enforced since last year to curb the spread of COVID-19 and for obstructing authorities.
That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and Astro AWANI app. I'm Cynthia Ng. We'll see you tomorrow.